Finally, my people, Obi don clear the air concerning the strong allegation against am. He not only clear the air small, but he clear and finish. Say na opposition party na they do it in their hand. Say because they want frustrate the enemy, make it busy, make it forget the whole thing. He say, but the more that they do the more the obedient movement the strong. Oya make una watch
Thank you,
am.
Charles. One is, I was never arrested. I was never detained. And I did not commit any offense. I was stopped for a routine immigration check because there appears to be a duplication of my identity. And all this lasted for maximum of 20 minutes. And I was treated in what I do with all due respect. Charles, I lived in the UK in the 90s, say from 1993 until 2005.
I remember meeting you in London, actually, in that period.
Yes. Charles, not just that I lived there, from that 1993 till now is a period of 30 years. I have never been questioned, arrested, detained in any country in the world. I've never even been, for any reason, found myself in any manner being questioned for any offense. I've not committed any offense. So it was a routine immigration check. And it lasted, like I said, less than 20 minutes. And I was actually given all the due respect by the border personality that interviewed me, who told me, your identity is duplicated, be careful. And actually had to walk me through what I can call the VIP process and everything. And I have a written document from British government.
I've seen that document.
Thank you. I showed it to you.
Clarifying the situation.
He was never detained, and it was just a few minutes question and everything. And they were Nigerians because I arrived on British Airways. So they were Nigerians who were queuing up. Even Woods here was even worried that I was asked to just wait for a few minutes. And when that happened, I explained it to them, and there was nothing. But it's been traumatized and everything because it's me. People said I was detained, committed an offense. People said even committed several offenses and everything. Oh, his company was closed. He wasn't paying tax. Charles, for the years I lived in Britain, never have I had any day been questioned. And I can say it, my taxes, my days were duly paid. In fact, most times, they have refunded me money for overpayment. I've borrowed money, I've done everything globally. Not one day did I default in any. If you find one default, then it's not Peter Obi.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that point about the arrest. And in support of the point you're making, I have seen the letter from the British High Commission making it ineluctably clear that it was no such thing. Nevertheless, as you said, there was a huge hullabaloo about that in Nigeria. I mean, was that a humiliation for you, or at the very least embarrassing that all this was being talked about you, and I mean, even the people who follow you were disappointed?
Charles, I would have made comment on it earlier, but these things happened during what I call holy month, where for me as a Christian, it was a fasting period and period of the Ramadan. And I felt it is not time to make comments. I only answered one question within that period when I was mentioned with treason, because I felt it's a huge offense. And because it was actually mentioned where it shouldn't have been mentioned. Other than that, I just felt this is the clarification. And I've just shown you the letter.
Yes.
I won't go about telling everybody and showing everybody the letter.
Yeah, that is true.
It just showed you where we've taken our rascality to, where people now come up with all sorts of things.
Well, some people said you were deported from the UK, but obviously not.
No, they saw it. I was routine check and I was allowed to go.
Right.
They even saw we attended churches and meetings and everything. But that's where we have reached.
But I mean, what sort of questions did they ask you when they took you in?
Nothing. I was there. Nobody took me to anywhere.
Right.
I was just in front of a counter and I was asked a question and they said, there's something wrong with your identity. There's something wrong with your identity. Just give me a few minutes. And that's it. And I sat there for the few minutes. For about 15 minutes, he came back and said, your identity is duplicated. And if my identity is duplicated, you've lived abroad as identity theft, duplication, which I would say must have originated from here. But
Well,
that is for another day.
Yeah, I'm glad you've clarified that point. But there's also another question being raised about whether you are a dual citizen. As you said, you lived in London for a long time. I mean, do you have dual nationality, either British, American, or elsewhere? Because I was reading somewhere that you were conferred with the honorary citizenship of Dallas, Texas in 2022.
Charles, you know what that means? It means nothing.
Yeah.
Even one of the presidential candidates said that it means nothing. It just shows that, okay, well, if you come into this city, you're welcomed. It doesn't even give you a visa. If you apply for a visa, it can't even help you for your visa application. It means nothing. Charles, I've never applied.
Right.
And I will never apply for citizenship of any other country.
Yeah, but
I'm a Nigerian.
Right. But
I believe in Nigeria. I lived in the UK for a period of about 12 years. I had a permanent stay.
So you were a permanent resident in the UK?
But I had indefinite stay,
Right. Okay.
which means I can stay there for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But when I left the UK in 2025, I went back to them and said, take your stay. I'm no longer have anything. And I go to the UK with visa.
And also to clarify the fact that even if you were a permanent resident, that doesn't make you a citizen of that
Well,
country.
I'm just telling you that even that stay, I returned it.
Right.
I have never applied, and I will never, as long as I live.
Right.
My family knows this, everybody knows that. I was born in Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. God created me a Nigerian. He would have made me an American, or a Japanese, or a British. But since he made it that I'm a Nigerian, I will want to live and die in Nigeria.
Nevertheless, Asari Dokubo, who is a well-known person from Rivers State, says he can prove that you are a citizen of the Solomon Islands, and that the conditions for buying property there is that you must be a citizen. What's your reaction? Do you own property there?
One, I don't know where is Solomon Island. I've never been such a place in my life. I don't know. I've never been there. I've no reason to go there. Few places I've gone in the Caribbean, places like Haiti. I was in Haiti when they had the earthquake. I was a governor then. Everybody who is close to me knows that I've been to most troubled places in the world. So when there was earthquake in Haiti, I went to President Jonathan. He's still there. I said, Mr. President, I'm going to Haiti. They had an earthquake. I want to go and help them to rebuild. He was even surprised. He said, Peter, why? I said, that's what I've done all my life. I've been to most troubled parts of the world. As I'm speaking to you, Mr. President, I've withdrawn my son from school. We're going there to Haiti. And I went there. The High Commissioner then will tell you, I even met some police officers from Nigeria who were there, and they will tell you. I even traveled with some of the people who, Bob Manuel, who used to be one of the actors, he saw me and said, I'm going to this place to help them rebuild. And I helped them to raise money then, over $200,000. So I've been to Haiti, and I've been to Barbados. So other than that, I can't remember. I don't know where Solomon Islands, Charles.
Right.
I've never been there. I don't own a property anywhere outside Nigeria except in the UK where I lived.
Yes.
Other than that, any other place that there's a property in the name of Peter Obi, it is fake. It doesn't exist. And I don't need it. Why would I own a property where I don't live?
Well, I'm glad you clarified that point, but I'm afraid there are other things that need clarification. The Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, recently called for your arrest, accusing you of treason. Do you see any links between your activities lately and any treasonable offences?
Charles is height of rascality. Height of rascality. And it was even announced in Washington. I committed a treasonable offense, and I'm in Onitsha. And my minister went to announce it in Washington. This is what I'm talking about. We're not talking about wasting governance here. People don't want to understand. The amount it costs Nigeria for him to go and announce that in Washington can fix, I can tell you, I've been in government, can build a block of 6 classrooms in a primary school. I'm sure if you go to his village, there's so many places where children don't even have desk or classroom to go to school. And instead of using that money to go and do it, he used that money to go to Washington to announce of treason of somebody who is in Onitsha. He doesn't need to do that. It is rascality of the highest order. These are the reason why we want a new Nigeria where things will work the way it works in other climes. From there he went to London, announcing the same thing. Well, I'm in Nigeria. He should have come to see me or invite me and say this is the offense. How did we get here?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I'm afraid it will remain a rhetorical question at the moment. Some of your followers, just moving on from that, who are known as obedience, have recently engaged in a sort of caustic exchange of words with Professor Wale Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, and he said that they simply don't accept any form of criticism. And I think it was around the time when he made the comments about fascism and your deputy, Yusuf Baba Dati Ahmed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Charles Prof is a respected, revered personality in Nigeria and globally. And I've always respected him. And he's a dear father to me. And for me, I was very, very sad that there was such a change. Some of the obedience, I must tell you, or people they, mentioned that the obedience are not entirely people who are with us. The oppositions have also come into it and are using it at times.
You mean other opposition
Other
parties?
opposition parties.
Right.
But that is not to worry about. But I was very sad there was such a change between a respected father and but you have to understand this. These young people are people who have been so deprived by supposedly a system that is supposed to care for them. They've been pushed to the wall. Even me, Charles, the way they even react when I say things. But I could see their pain. I could feel it. Because I live in the same system, Charles, that they are living in. I said it in Enugu 2 days ago. I said, listen, I lived in this town. I went to JL in Enugu as a student, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and paid 2,600 and something naira for a Volkswagen car. And within 2 years, Umano Motors in Usoka sold a 505 to me at 2,700 naira, sorry, at 6,800 and something naira in the same country. I remember Ozumano telling me that they have too many orders from so many lecturers, so my own will be delayed. If you go and see people like Professor Wala, my lecturer then, they are driving new cars. It's some society where we lived, everything was working. All of a sudden, these young fellows now live in what you can consider a war situation. So at times, there's issues. I will make my own comment in it that Prof remains a revered father. And I'll keep respecting him for that. And of course, the young obedience, I feel for them. I wish we can see what they're saying. I wish we can feel what they're feeling. The pain, chance I go around these young people, there's nothing the society is offering them.
Well, it's not just the
even when they try to do it on their own.
Yeah.
This is a place where if you carry, today you are moving around with laptop, you are arrested and labeled all sorts of names. This is a place where people are thrown into jail for even making comments. These are places where people, all sorts of things are meted on these people. When people who have stolen billions of country's money, done worse things, are moving around, being celebrated, being used as an example to them. Thank you for having me, Charles.
Now let's turn to the President-elect Bola Tinubu, whom, from what I read, you recently visited or were shown on social media to have visited. That suggests that you're making reconciliation moves. What are the reasons for that? And what would you say to your followers, the obedience, who might, in a sense, feel betrayed by that move, if it did in fact happen?
Charles, it did not happen. I've never visited him. I didn't. These are one of the things I'm telling you. They've turned the whole thing into a joke. So what it is now is, what are we going to do to crush this person? What are we going to do to label him this? If it is not to label him tribal bigot, religious bigot, if it's not sticking, maybe we'll find his family, maybe have a love child somewhere, maybe all sorts of things. Duplicated identity, everything. Because I've been to the UK about 3 times this year, this issue. So it's all about, let's go to Washington and announce to them that is treason, that is involved in this, involved in that. Charles, I did not visit anybody.
Okay, well, that's a clarification.
So my followers are saying, will remain steadfast in the cause we've chosen. And that is to do the right thing. We went into election with a strong faith in the law that was signed by Mr. President, with a strong faith in the statements of Professor Mahmoud, which was said globally, said it in Washington, said it in Chatham House, in places where even other electoral bodies don't come to say anything. He said it all over Nigeria. Even when people doubted it, he said nobody should doubt it. It's going to be this real time. Why do we have to go through that? Just why do we have to? Why is this country built that things must be wasted?
So why do you think he said those things and did something else?
We spent nearly $1 billion for this mess. We could have just saved the money. After all, if the university striking lecturers were giving 400 billion, there wouldn't have been no strike. We would have just asked Mr. President, you're going, please appoint somebody of your choice. You would have saved everybody, the parties that were running around, all those monies people use for campaign and everything, running around, even those who shared money for their primaries, they would have saved all that money, even for the forms, and use it to invest in the two critical areas that is keeping this country underdeveloped: education and health. If we have put 100 billion in primary health care that have just collapsed, and we have the highest infant mortality, surpassing India, that is 1.4 billion people. Nigeria have surpassed India in infant mortality. If we were put 100 billion naira on that, it would have made all the difference. We didn't. We put it in the election. And then we came up with this. How?
But why do you think he went to all those places, Chatham House and all the places around the world?
I don't know. That's what I said.
And said those things and then did something else.
Yes, that's what I'm worried about. And this is not being said by somebody who is uneducated. It's been said by a respected professor.
But does that give...
That questions the entire... You see, whenever I talk about that educational qualification, it's not a measure of integrity. That's what it should be.
Yeah, but you're suggesting that it was necessarily something that had to do with integrity. They're arguing that it might have been, or that it had something to do with technical glitches.
Which technical glitches? You had three elections the same day. The other two went through the same promise you made. The most important election in this country is the election, the presidential election. That's where we have issues. That's where we have our problems. That's what we need to solve. That's where we need competence, capacity, integrity, and everything that character, everything that is required to move it forward. And that is the only one that you have glitch. Which glitch? Can they explain the glitch? Have they ever explained it to anybody? INEC is still uploading the results till today. Does it make sense?
Well, presumably that explanation they'll be forced to make it in court. And of course...
No, it's not even making it in court. You look at the country. Charles, we have a country. We're not the only country globally. There's hundreds of countries globally. Why must our own be always a problem? Well, the court will decide. I believe the justices also are on the spot. It is for them to interpret the Constitution, whichever way they do it. I've done it before. I've challenged similar rascality in my state. I've challenged it when I was impeached. I've challenged it when there was issue of tenor interpretation. So I'm challenging it again. And the judges are also on trial. Because on trial of interpretation of our Constitution, of the law, of the process. Like I said, what we are challenging is not just about who is there or who is not there. It is the process. Just the process through which people get to anywhere is far more fundamental than what they do thereafter. I recall asking one of the professors a few days ago, I said, can I be a professor? Can I start writing I'm a professor without having to do the necessary work of being a professor? He said, no. I said, okay. Who said I'm not probably more intelligent than most professors? But there's a process. And it's that process that I want people to respect. There's a law. That's why we went through that electoral law that we celebrated. And that's what we're challenging. The chairman of Labour Party is Barrister Julius Abure. That I can tell you.
But you have to admit that all this wrenching, wrangling and sort of petty fights and quarrels over positions, etc. I mean,
which position are they fighting for?
Well, I mean, we see it virtually every day.
Because
on
people are paid, people are hired, being paid to distort facts and everything. For example, Charles, I've never met Mr. Papa. And supposedly, you can say that I'm a meaningful figure in Labour Party. I'm the presidential candidate. So, but I've not met the other party chairman, and he's not looking for me. So, there was a purpose. It's because of the transactional politics we do, where rather than spend our energy and time trying to do the right thing, we spend our energy and time trying to do the wrong thing, paying people to do the wrong thing, paying people to create, because we live off this confusion. In Labour Party, we don't have an issue. Charles, whatever you call it, whatever anybody wants to make of it, it's fine with me. All I can tell you is that, Charles, I'm not a religious or tribal bigot.
But you did have the conversation.
No. I just tell you, what they make about it is their business. I've shown you several examples this evening of things that was said about me that is false. For dual citizen, for detention, for treason, for this. So whatever they make it, let me tell you, I am not a religious bigot.
Right.
I'm not a tribal bigot.
But did that conversation
go and
take
look in the history of this country and ask yourself, how many people have been opportune to serve privately and publicly and surrounded themselves around with Nigerians? I've said it before. I was governor of my state for 8 years. My ADC, which I mention every day, who is the closest person to me, is from Kano. They said, I demolished mosque in Onitsha. I made Muslims to carry ID card. My police commissioner was from Kano. He was a Muslim. My ADC is from Kano. He was a Muslim. And I'm asking his people to carry ID card, and I was demolishing where they go to worship. Now I went to celebrate Salah with the people in the mosque.
I saw the pictures.
And they said it was me who rebuilt the mosque when it was destroyed under another governor. So I built the mosque, but I was being labeled as the man who demolished it. Where do you start? These things, like I said yesterday, development doesn't know religion or tribal. All these people are saying, let them show me the road they built. Charles, I've never seen a road constructed where only the Muslims are allowed to pass. Like I said, those who are talking about religion in this country, can they show me where Muslims buy bread cheaper? So we can go there and buy the bread. Or show me where Christians buy bread cheaper. They only use this. People only bring issue of religion and tribal because they're not competent. Because they don't want to serve.
Right. So that conversation didn't.
So for me, Charles, let me even assume it happened. Do you think I can just pick a phone and say religious war? No.
Well, we know there's artificial intelligence
No, there
that manipulates.
There must have been a
say.
conversation.
Yeah.
And
but we want to be clear on what you said and what you didn't say.
Charles, even subsequent thing, I was even begging the bishop to help me to ask his people to vote, which is what I was doing for 6 months, begging. I wasn't saying snatch it, kill it, take it, force it. I was even begging, which shows that I continue to look for vote by begging. It shows there's so many things you've tried to do, but everything okay. It's easy to manipulate. Let me tell you, those who have been manipulating people in Nigeria have been doing it, but it's coming to an end because even those that are manipulating are not dying of hunger. So they will soon know who is a religious bigot, a tribal bigot. I am not one. I've just given you an example that I built mosque. To today, no non-Muslim governor have sent more people to Mecca than me.
Right.
They said it when I went to Akka. It was them who I was saying it.
Well, I'm going to assume...
When I do pilgrimage,
right.
I send people to Israel, I send people to Mecca.
I'm going to
because
assume...
I believe
right.
that this is the way to go.
I'm going to assume that you did not say that the election is a religious war, because you haven't answered that question. But if you choose not to answer it, I will assume, based on what you said, that you did not say.
I can never say it's a religious war.
Okay.
Because it's not.
Right. So that clarifies
if there's a conversation, even if, Charles, just like what's happened to me in London, even if I was stopped, you can call it I was stopped or even detained. But to go and say, oh, he committed a crime, he did this,
and he was arrested as a result of it.
There's conversations around the election where a conversation can come and I say, listen, this looks like if these people are trying to do this. But I did not campaign that is a religious war. What for? I'm surrounded by people. If there's anybody where a president and vice worked as brothers, it is me and Daddy. And he knows. And I will always tell him, Daddy, we must pull these people out of poverty. I came to you because you're a young man. For the first time in history of Nigeria, we had a presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate, a party chairman. There were people born after Nigerian independence. I said, with three of us, we must save this country. And he knows my commitment to it. We must do this, we must do this. I can't be doing it with the background of a religious war.